Alright, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I am back, and it is time for one of these rare AlphaStar matches because this one is going to be a doozy. I mean, we've gone through a lot of the AlphaStar matches that are out there. However, I am pretty sure that this is going to be an epic AlphaStar match, or at least a fun one to watch. So, here we are. It's a Masters Protoss player going to be taking on AlphaStar's Terran. And for this video, I thought I am going to really focus on what exactly AlphaStar is doing, see if there's anything that really stands out, as opposed to just casting it like a completely normal game. So, and I'll try and make it a bit beginner-friendly too. So we have AlphaStar initially building a supply depot into barracks, which is basically the alternate to going for a supply depot gas, then barracks. Essentially, this one gives you it's less aggressive in a sense, as it gets you a slower factory. It allows you to get that CC, I believe, just a little bit quicker. So it's kind of considered the more economical or the more conservative of the plays. All the while, this probe is going to come on in, potentially harass AlphaStar's SCV, but this barracks will be done pretty darn soon, as the barracks is also a little bit quicker when you go for that barracks into gas. SCV is chasing this probe around. AlphaStar knows the danger that a probe can cause as it fires up its first Reaper. Most matches that a Terran plays against with a Reaper, or plays against a Protoss, you build a Reaper, as essentially what that does is that it allows you to scout what the Protoss is going for their initial tech, or at the very least, the presence of the Reaper forces the Stalker, forces the Adept, whatever the Protoss makes essentially, to stay back at home in order to avoid basically losing probes to the Reaper in order to try and deny the scouting. So in a sense, it is defense by pressure, by keeping this Reaper poking out on the map. So we'll see how well AlphaStar is going to control this, as it goes for a command center on the high ground, so a safe option, and then a factory and a reactor behind it with the one Marine. So the Reaper for AlphaStar is going to run on into the main base of this Protoss. The initial Adept has just popped out. Usually you'll lose maybe one probe. Looks like it will be one dead probe. And then the Shade might actually get the Reaper here. This could be an overstep by AlphaStar. Does the Adept get that Reaper? Yes, it does. So very solid for the Protoss player, but quite unfortunate for AlphaStar here, as losing that initial Reaper, it essentially means, right, you're free to send the Adept across the map. You can basically go for whatever tech you want. You know the tech hasn't been scouted, so you can play a little bit aggressively or defensively. Since your opponent is in the dark, they don't know what to expect, so AlphaStar will have to play a little bit more defensive. This SCV has also walled itself in for AlphaStar with that command center, so a bit of a derp there. Now the Adept's going to shade on up into the main base, spot that the CC is just flying over. The Adept actually completes the shade in the main base. This is a bit aggressive. Looks like the Adept will get a mule, a pretty fresh one at that, so not a bad trade for the Protoss player. The Adept gets the full scout, which I'd say would be worth it. Cancels the shade, but then does go down. So AlphaStar, losing that mule hurts a little bit. Got the Adept, so that's a little bit of a consolation prize. However, so far with getting the initial Reaper, the Protoss player is probably pretty happy. AlphaStar is now building a Cyclone, in part, or a second Cyclone, pardon me, in part based on the fact that it never scouted what its opponent's going for. And so, for all AlphaStar knows, it could be, say, like an Immortal push or an Immortal drop or something like that. It could be Oracles would be the main reason you'd build a Cyclone for anti-air. We also see AlphaStar going for an eBay, probably to start a quick +1 attack, as that seems to be a tendency of the AI. However, also to get turrets, once again, because that scout did not get off. So now we see AlphaStar has to invest all this money, essentially, because it didn't spot the fact that it was the Twilight Council going for Blink. As if AlphaStar had spotted that, it could play a little bit safer, maybe just go for like one turret, just to be sure to defend DTs. You'd know it wouldn't be Oracles. So yeah, I mean, just an example of why you want to keep your first Reaper alive in a StarCraft 2 match. Now, this Protoss player is quite comfortable as well, going for a double forged third base play. No, after scouting out AlphaStar's base, pretty confident there's going to be no major attacks coming down the pipe. And I mean, there's a chance that AlphaStar could push out with this army. There's 2 Cyclones, a good number of Marines, seeing as how AlphaStar has that constant Marine production. It rarely ever falters queuing those up. Cloak Banshee is also on the way for AlphaStar, so that's going to be able to be used to scan and detect, or to potentially get some damage done as well. Let's see. So the Banshee going to head towards that third base. We'll keep an eye on what it gets done. However, quickly, in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 14 Marines in this clump here. Let's try and hit ourselves 14 likes on this video. That would be absolutely amazing if we could blow that away. Now, we take a look. There's a shield battery in each base for the Protoss player, so the Protoss player is playing quite anti-harassment, as that's what the shield batteries are good for. Now, the thing about the shield batteries, to point out, is that they're good for defending harassment. If they're all on the front, they're good for defending big attacks. However, investing in the shield batteries in the main base does leave the Protoss player a little bit exposed to, say, a large frontal attack. And AlphaStar is going to be going for a push now. It's made a huge chunk of Marines. It's got a couple of tanks, a couple of Cyclones, and a Banshee to join up with this attack. And I'm not sure if the Protoss is going to have quite enough to defend, in part due to the fact that shield batteries were invested in at every base. That the Protoss went, say, for double forge could make this a little bit tougher to hold on. We'll see how well AlphaStar is going to control this attack, where the siege tanks get set up and whatnot. Looks like for now the Stalkers are going to move across the map looking for reinforcements, but the attack is just commencing right now. The Zealots engage a little bit beforehand, so the Stalkers are not there to support them, so all of a sudden the Protoss has lost a good chunk of their army. A couple of probes are going to go down to these Cyclones. The tanks are getting blinked on at the back by the Stalkers, so cleaning those up is great for the Protoss. However, in the meantime, AlphaStar is going to try and get as much damage as possible done. The Zealots are getting cut down by the Marines. However, in theory, with these Stalkers, that this attack should be cleaned up. However, we take a look, AlphaStar is actually just focusing down the third Nexus, which is quite a unique play here. It's not something you see Terrans go for every single push. AlphaStar just saying, right, I'm probably not going to be able to take this too much further, so it's simply just trying to settle for that third Nexus, which is actually quite a good pickoff. It's not settling at all. One Stalker goes down, the shield battery is helping the rest of these out, so it looks like the Protoss should be able to clean up all these Marines, but this was quite a strong attack from AlphaStar. We saw the Protoss player committing too much to the main base defense, just with the shield batteries and whatnot, and then just not being prepared for that attack, disjointed with the Zealot charge in. So the third base is now gone. AlphaStar, the macro machine back at home, has got up a third base while this is going on. It's getting up that extra bio production. We see the bio production is quite late, as is typical AlphaStar fashion. It doesn't really do bio rushes or anything like that. However, 1-1 is now on the way, so going to be trying to catch up on upgrades too. Lots of turrets going up as well, I guess just for safety, prevent the observers. The Stalkers actually blink on top of that tank. They get one of them, which is quite nice for the Protoss player. Getting that, a Stalker for a tank is a trade he'll take any day of the week. However, as far as going in further, I can't recommend it for this Protoss player. The 2 Zealots that were brought in go down. The Stalkers have to retreat. There's simply too many siege tanks, and all the while back at home, these Banshees are killing off more probes. The Protoss player, who once had the promise of a strong 3-base economy, is now down to 37 workers. The only thing I'd say is that is going for this Protoss player is the fact that he's got Disruptors, which are essentially the comeback unit. However, this iteration of AlphaStar is looking quite strong, thrashing this Protoss player. Stimpack is on the way, another factory on the way for AlphaStar, so I'd say it's just a matter of time until the AI is ready to push out with a good number of siege tanks with a large bioforce. We should be seeing 2-2 get started up. The armory is a little bit late for AlphaStar. I'll note that that is a bit of a mistake, otherwise the 2-2 could be started already. So that is something that AlphaStar could definitely work on. All the while, another Banshee harassing. Where's the observer for the Protoss player? The answer is clearly not here to help out with these Banshees, which are still being a pain. Let's pull up that unit's loss tab for a second. Oh my gosh, 56 probes have gone down. If you're 10 minutes into a game and you've already lost 56 probes, that is bad news. And right now we're seeing AlphaStar essentially double the supply of the Protoss player. Or double the worker supply. Actually, almost double the actual supply too, which does not bode well for the Masters player, who's just trying to get his economy back online. Needs to transfer some probes towards this finished third base. But take a look at this. AlphaStar is now going to move across the map, looking for blood. The tanks moving across, the bio moving across. Fortunately for the Protoss player, one of the flaws of AlphaStar is that it doesn't tend to build medivacs to heal up stimmed bio. So the fact that these Marines have already stimmed is basically just a ton of HP gone that will not be healed up. Looks like a Banshee harassing once again, not quite being microed by AlphaStar to get maximum efficiency. AlphaStar busy paying attention on the front line as this Protoss player is just hoping to get a big disruptor shot or two off on this Terran army. Looks like the bio for AlphaStar might section itself off and go for a fight. Sometimes it's known to do that to leave the siege tanks behind, but oh, look at that. Siege tanks get a couple shots off, kill a few stalkers. Not bad at all. And the third base even being harassed by yet another Banshee. Absolutely brutal play by AlphaStar here. Where are all the probes? Yeah, they're in the main base, not really mining there. View that base being abandoned, but a disruptor shot goes off, gets quite a big connection. However, the disruptor does die in the process. You gotta give it to this Protoss player for trying, for fighting the match out. We see AlphaStar build 3 sensor towers, so that's a bit of a derp. 3 sensor towers within a stone's throw of each other is a little bit extreme. But for this Protoss player, I am quite concerned. I believe in the power of the disruptor, the power of big hits. However, the concern is that every step of the way, this AI, this AlphaStar iteration is just going for Banshee harassment non-stop. We see the Protoss player, once again, he moves out with his Stalkers and to join up with the rest of his army, but that leaves his natural base exposed, so he's going to have to warp in another Stalker or two to respond to this, to deal with this Banshee. There is an Observer in place this time, at least. So this Banshee should get cleaned up after only getting a couple probes. But man, the headache AlphaStar is giving this Protoss player. We see the Protoss just lurking out in the darkness, out of the shield battery, or out of the sensor towers, pardon me. AlphaStar's vision, I mean, it's not fully sure of what's going on out there. And I haven't focused too much on it, what AlphaStar is doing. And that's why for a lot of these analytical videos, I don't pay too much attention to exactly what the AI is doing, because it's really just going through the motions here. It's starting at 3-3, it's building a lot of siege tanks, getting extra command centers on the way here just to ensure in case it loses any. Looks like a disruptor shot goes out. That command center does get picked off, which is quite nice for the Protoss. We take a look. A couple of Tempest are on the way, or a couple of Stargates potentially to build Tempest are on the way for the Protoss player, who's now actually just making Immortals and getting 3-3 on the way. A small chunk of bio is moving across the map for AlphaStar, and the AI is maxed out with an absurdly good economy, building 5 command centers at a time, so playing quite late game. However, I'm a little bit concerned here for the Protoss player. But if AlphaStar does wait long enough to go for an attack or something like that, then there is a chance that the Protoss player could come back. Looks like these Stalkers are moving down this ramp. Disruptors fire at their shots. They do miss the bio, however, they do force out a stim pack. Meanwhile, AlphaStar just stimming this chunk of units heading towards the 4th base of the Protoss, which got established. So getting a good number of probes, quite nice. Not bad at all for the AI, just for a handful of overstimmed bio. Looks like this bio will be cleaned on up, however, there's a lot more where that came from. These boys are mighty red, but they could still come in for an attack, and we shall see how it's going to work out. I mean, stimmed bio packs a wallop. Is the Protoss player paying attention? The answer is no. Looks like 3 disruptors are going to go down. The bio is heavily overstimmed. The Protoss player actually blinks in front. Going to lose a good number of these Stalkers. That's quite painful here. Looks like the Zealot's going to be pursuing this bio, chasing it back. But losing those disruptors was a big, painful move for the Protoss player, who, by the way, now is just basically forgoing all AoE and is going hard into the Tempest. We take a look. 2 Tempest on the way, 2 more Stargates on the way behind this. Another Cyber Core, too. It looks like this Protoss is basically just saying, I don't want to fight on the ground, so I'm just going to make a ton of Tempests. But versus a mass Marine army, that does not give me a lot of faith. Seeing as how AlphaStar is already making Vikings to counteract a potential air transition, that's great for the AI. I don't even know if AlphaStar has spotted these Stargates. No, the AI doesn't frequently scan. I guess as it just maths out what its opponent could possibly be up to and plays from there. But we take a look. A nice attack from the Protoss player. Picks off a base. However, I think he really needs to recall here instead of taking this fight. He's going to lose a good number of Zealots, or I guess a bad number of Zealots, as losing those units, they're not really something that the Protoss can easily replace. I mean, he's making Tempest, he's getting a shield upgrade so that his Tempest will be stronger in the skies. He could always start armor too. He's got a lot of money here at this point, so he should really be making as many units as humanely possible. And we do see, I mean, there's a lot of tanks here for AlphaStar that certainly will not help out against... Oh my gosh, this is actually so many tanks. They won't help out against Tempest. However, we're seeing the Vikings come out. So the AI is heading towards, say, a Viking Tempest composition. A couple of Medivacs, gotta pull back. The Protoss player is doing a good job keeping the pressure on AlphaStar. Even a defensive planetary going up for the AI, though. I'd love to see Psystorm getting researched here for the Masters Protoss player. I feel like you can't go for any late-game Protoss composition without it. However, this Protoss player apparently believes so. Also, notably, supply blocks, so he throws up a ton of pylons here. That's like 6 pylons to avoid any future supply block. All the while, AlphaStar is just turtling to the max here. As we take a look, more turrets on the way, a defensive planetary, lots of siege tanks, Vikings being built up as well. I want to say this Protoss player has a chance, but AlphaStar is playing pretty darn solid. I'd like to point out that this command center is definitely off location, though. So a bit of a derp there. AlphaStar playing solid, but always derpy. Looks like 1 Viking gets picked off, 2 Vikings, as AlphaStar was out on the map with these boys. Gonna lose 3 Vikings in all, and the Vikings will just tuck themselves into the corner. A bit of a Zealot counterattack going down. Meanwhile, there's a PF. I didn't even realize between the natural and the 3rd. An Armory does get picked off, denying an upgrade there, which isn't bad. However, we do take a look. There's a counterattack. This Protoss, or this Terran bio, is going to be picking off one of the Protoss's bases, which is quite painful when you're only on 4 bases at 18 minutes into the game. So the Protoss is going to want to rebuild that as soon as possible. The Carriers and Tempests, though, setting to work on this army of AlphaStar. More Carriers are on the way as well, which could potentially help bolster the Protoss's army. I mean, once you're at a good number of Carriers, you can become a little bit more threatening, particularly if the Protoss player fires up his attack upgrades too. That would really help him out. Meanwhile, AlphaStar is going into mass Viking production. However, if both these players max out and they take an air fight, but AlphaStar has tons of supply and siege tanks, then that would actually put AlphaStar at a disadvantage if it just comes down to one big air battle, because siege tanks aren't going to help you out. However, we take a look right now, the Protoss player is out on the map. I don't know how I feel about this. Tempest and Carriers in small numbers will not cut it against this many Vikings. I'm actually quite concerned here for the Protoss player. I mean, AlphaStar has just made so many Vikings. Is going to try and volley down some of these units. Looks like one of the Carriers gets picked off for minimal losses there. I mean, I just don't like how the Protoss player attacked for AlphaStar. This is great. If you can get any pickoffs, the tanks sieging up as well to zone out the Stalkers, which are there to zone out the Vikings. We're seeing a bit of a skirmish go down over AlphaStar scanning to pick off yet another carrier, despite the mothership's presence. I think we need to see more upgrades here for these carriers. If you're going to make carriers, when they've got 3-3, they can cut through Marines. They do pretty good against Vikings as well in mass, because the Vikings have a tough time targeting efficiently. We take a look here. The Protoss player, though, once again going to be moving out on the map. However, he's got so much supply here in carriers that are not out yet. Like, if you just wait till you've got a big enough army, then I think you can take a good trade. But fighting with these smaller forces is not something the Protoss wants to do. If AlphaStar can capitalize on that, AlphaStar will be a happy camper. The AI, by the way, does keep putting CCs off location. Like, there's one off location, there's one off location. It's mining from this base, but it built a starport and a bunch of turrets in the way, which, in a sense, is also off location. Now, for AlphaStar, one thing that I'd like to see is maybe a couple of ghosts, maybe a Raven or two for interference or for anti-armor missiles. I think that would be immensely helpful for the Terran AI. All in all, though, I mean, the Protoss player is just about maxed out. More and more carriers on the way. All those upgrades have been started. We could be seeing AlphaStar's fatal flaw, which is the AI in the late game, shine through here, because if we take a look right now, it's going to be 21 Vikings against like 10 plus carriers with Tempest support, with Stalkers on the ground. The 24 siege tanks that AlphaStar has are not going to help out. We see the Vikings looking for any potential pickoff they can get. They even shoot an interceptor or two. I really would like to see Psystorm go down for the Protoss player if we're talking about what the Protoss should go for. AlphaStar, I feel, should be heading towards Ghost Tech, as you'd get Ghost to counter potential High Templar. Just EMP in general is pretty darn good. Then a Raven for anti-armor missile, because that splash damage is very good as well. We are starting to see AlphaStar throw away some more supply, though. These tanks are heading out onto the map. Meanwhile, this bio's heading towards the 6th base of the Protoss player. That's probably not going to get up. That's going to have to be a cancel. The cancel gets used there. All the while, these carriers and Tempest are going to slaughter these Marines. One carrier gets attacked, but is just fine. Vikings are now on the way as well for AlphaStar. I mean, they've been on the way for quite a while here. Looks like AlphaStar doesn't seem to get the memo, though, as it's just making more siege tanks and more Vikings, which are not going to help versus mass carriers. Like, if we take a look right now, I think the air army is better for the Protoss player, and it's worse for AlphaStar. One carrier gets focused down. However, I don't think that subsequent pickoffs are going to be as free for the AI here. As Vikings will start to fall, the Protoss's air army is quite strong. We see AlphaStar has also forgone getting any more air upgrades, so the Protoss actually has an air army advantage. AlphaStar is building up turrets, making more Vikings. However, to actually stop this army in one big fight, I'm not sure how it's going to do it. I mean, the tanks certainly aren't going to help out. This is a big dirk for AlphaStar here. Let's take a look. Yeah, these carriers and Tempest are just basically wrecking the AI's base, as we're seeing kind of the fatal flaw of AlphaStar shine through once again. Get to the late game against AlphaStar, it won't build the right composition. AlphaStar is up to 28 Vikings, which is not a small amount. It can definitely have a shot at this. Maybe focus down the mothership, that would be a nice pickoff, but it does have to pull back. And there's simply so many interceptors. Once the interceptors are out, they set upon the Terran army, or whatever's in place for the Terran, like a swarm of bees. I almost want to say that the Terran player, AlphaStar, needs Liberators, but most importantly, AlphaStar needs air attack upgrades, needs better armor for these units. Liberators with +3 attack will chew through interceptors quite handily. However, these Vikings are not going to cut it. They can try and get a volley off on whatever. Looks like they get the mothership, which is a nice pickoff. They're now going to retreat over the turrets, which will help out for sure. These siege tanks are all going to be getting picked off, though, because they're simply sitting there doing nothing. AlphaStar has to retreat as well, as there's only 18 Vikings left. Starports have been basically just wiped out for the AI. I mean, all the anti-air production really is gone, as AlphaStar has to rebuild starports, rebuild barracks, as the main base was cleared out. All the while, the Protoss player is starting to build up a bigger bank. which is more and more scary. I'd really like to see Psystorm from the Protoss' side of thing. And yeah, AlphaStar just needs to go harder into the anti-air. We're starting to see some Liberators, which is good, although I'm not sure I have faith in the AI to use them appropriately by getting up enough and keeping them in anti-air mode. We take a look, the Protoss is going to attack on into all these turrets. The turrets don't also have building armor or anything, so they could have stood a better chance if that was the case. Instead, they pretty much just get cleaned out for free. Just a couple of interceptors. Yeah, I feel like AlphaStar is going to be throwing this game. It's still making siege tanks. It's just such a classic derp from the AI. Only one siege tank at a time, I'll admit. However, any siege tanks at this point in the game, I feel, is too many. AlphaStar has taken this base to the top right, so it's still mining a bit. Despite its bank going down, it will have income. 3 siege tanks on the way at a time, though, is not what I want to see for AlphaStar. At least if you're going to have siege tanks, send them across the map, send them to counterattack. But yeah, this is kind of just AlphaStar derping, playing the late game, potentially losing in a turtle match once more. Looks like AlphaStar has built up a good Liberator count, got a good number of Vikings as well, or I guess an alright Liberator count. 3 isn't actually enough. It's not good enough. You need like 10 or 15 Liberators and you'll just slaughter the Interceptors. Widow Mines too would help out. Even Thors with their anti-air splash would help. We're seeing a bit of an engagement though. I don't think it's going to go the way of AlphaStar. The Marines on the ground will at least help out by battling with the Interceptors, but this is just such a Protoss Air Force. We're even seeing a Zealot that was warped in to harass this base. SCVs will clean it up. No, this Zealot is actually just a monster. It just killed so many SCVs. One Marine comes in to help out, but if we take a look on the front lines, it's not getting any better for AlphaStar here. It's just a classic tale of the AI not knowing how to play the late game. There are currently 19 carriers against 22 Vikings, 44 Marines, and 3 Liberators. If there was more Liberators, I'd say there'd be a chance for AlphaStar. However, there simply isn't. More bases are going to go down. There isn't that much production for AlphaStar. It needs to throw away the siege tanks that it's kept making. I feel like the AI, if it had a better understanding of late game, it would be very complete, but it's simply not. It just doesn't know how to play the late game. As that's the most complicated part of Starcraft 2. We're going to see more Vikings get bled off. The resources lost are absurdly far ahead of the Protoss. If we pull up that graph, it's 47,000 lost for the Terran, 23,000 for the Protoss. These carriers have just been getting pickoffs basically for days. And yeah, this is just a sad situation for AlphaStar. We're now starting to see some Widow Mines on the way. But you need more than 2 Widow Mines, AlphaStar. You need about 20 of them. You also got to get rid of these siege tanks, dude. Just do it. Send the siege tanks across the map. Hit all the bases that the Protoss player has with like 5 siege tank hit squads. It would be great. But instead the AI just chooses to handicap itself by not having anti-air or having free anti-air supply. The Marines are going to fight the Interceptors. They seem to be doing all right thanks to their 3-3 upgrades. However, I still don't see this situation getting any better. The Marines are moving across the map. They are going to be getting picked off by some of the Interceptors, though. We take a look. AlphaStar is being harassed by 1 Stalker in the top right. Another Armory is on the way. I guess the last one was killed off, but AlphaStar still also hasn't got any more ship weapon upgrades, so the Marines are probably actually the best bet for AlphaStar. However, they will not stand strong enough to take on the Interceptors. Carriers are a very snowbally unit. They'll rebuild the Interceptors that they lost in a second, which wasn't even that many. Then they'll probably be able to push in and go in for the death blow. I wonder if the Protoss player at this point knows that he's playing against a completely derpy AI. Okay, let's take a look here. DT being warped in for the Protoss player. There's even High Templar now. Let's take a look here. Vikings gonna try and focus down a carrier, they might get one. Widow mines go off, but there's not enough to handle this. The interceptors, they could all die, and the Protoss would just rebuild them all. We are waiting for the death of AlphaStar here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get a like for every siege tank that AlphaStar has lost this game, which is currently 33 likes. Let's try and hit 33 likes on this video. I personally didn't like it. I didn't like what happened to the AI, but you guys can like the fact that this was a 30-minute video that the AI kind of derped in. Yeah. Alright, of course, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Tap that bell icon right by the subscribe button as well, as it gets you notified whenever there's a new video that I put up. Which is great, seeing as how I put up a lot of AlphaStar videos. And then join the Discord if you haven't already, and thanks to those of you that support the channel via memberships. But yeah, we're just waiting for AlphaStar just to die here. Like, it's a sad life for a StarCraft 2 caster to be casting such a phenomenal AI that just seems to have so many fatal flaws. Or that really just has this one major fatal flaw, I should say. The late game. Like, stop building siege tanks. That would probably be the first step, AlphaStar. The Protoss player, I think, just needs to finish this game, and it looks like this could very well be it. The carriers are going to move on in. Interceptors launching out. The Marines are going to melt like butter. The carriers are going to just slaughter the siege tanks. Thank God they're all gone, but AlphaStar sure as shit is going to build more. Carriers, Tempest, moving in. Yeah, we wait for the GG. Alright, yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. This has been LaughNgamez. I feel like I cast this game before. I sincerely hope I didn't. I guess we were just in the same situation as before. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.